it's good, but it's messy. You guys should know that you are watching and listening to one of the newest members of the National Society of Film Critics, an extremely prestigious group that wisely finally
they were
Alonzo
prestigious,
in.
and then they let me in. So I may have tanked the whole thing, but thank you. I'm very excited to have been inducted.
It's a big deal. So congrats. So we're going to talk about Wakanda Forever now. This is a non-spoiler review.
Yes.
But if you want to go more in depth with us, we're going to do our first live stream ever on Saturday, 4 p.m. Pacific time Saturday. We'll put a link to the stream that's already all ready to go, and just tune in to see if we can figure it out.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
Yes, will the technology completely befuddle us, but if we do manage to be there, we will be spoiling the heck out of Wakanda Forever, but after you've had a chance to see it, ideally.
People do live streams all the time.
Yes.
They're a very common thing.
Dave and I do one on Facebook every Sunday for our Linoleum Knife Patreon. So I believe in us. It
can be done. So come join us. But for our purposes here today, we are going to do a spoiler-free review of Wakanda Forever. And Alonzo, please describe what happens in this long-awaited Black Panther sequel.
There is a new world power at play.
Are you an ally or an enemy?
As the film opens off screen, T'Challa dies. Despite the best efforts of Shuri to save him, she is devastated by this loss and by her inability to, use her technical wizardry to save his life. She and Ramunda, the queen of Wakanda, are, grappling with their mourning and their grief. But they have soon other outside things to deal with. Wakanda, up to this point, except for Captain America's shield, has been the world's only repository of vibranium, which is why they have been able to be this advanced culture and they've kind of kept themselves hidden from the world. But it turns out, someone has created a vibranium detector, and they're looking for other sources of it around the world.
Yes.
B, there's a whole other kingdom that is founded on vibranium, and it is called Tolokan.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I've seen it spelled 2 different ways now. So anyway, that is ruled by Namor, played here by Tenoch Huerta. It's Atlantis in the Marvel comics, but now it is called Tolokan. And it is a civilization of indigenous Central Americans who found a plant that sort of came out of vibranium that gave them the ability to live under the water. His mother was pregnant when she took the plant and then gave birth under the sea. So Namor is the one person who can breathe on land and under the water. He approaches the royal family of Wakanda and says, look, we are the vibranium sources of the world. We need to attack everybody else or they're going to come get us. Ramunda and Shuri say, no, we're not down for that. He demands that they turn over the inventor of the vibranium detector. That turns out to be an MIT undergrad named Riri Williams, who's about to get very important in the MCU. And in fact, is going to have her own show, Ironheart, coming up on Disney+. And so it becomes this clash between Wakanda and the kingdom of Tolokan, and also about individuals making choices and whether or not they have processed their grief will have a lot to say about what choices they make.
You make it sound very boring.
Well, look, there's a lot of plot and there's a lot of action, but we're trying not to get into that.
Right. There's a lot we can't say. So here's what I'll say, that this ties more into the MCU.
Yes.
Than the previous Black Panther did. The first Black Panther, I think, may be the best Marvel movie ever. I think it's my favorite ever.
A case could be made for sure. Yes.
It is singular. It is groundbreaking in a lot of ways, technically, in terms of storytelling, and it told its own story. And now we are in a different place for a lot of reasons. Ryan Coogler, as director and co-writer, had to, figure out a way to move forward without Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
And the sense of sorrow is just like you're soaking in it all the time. Like at the very, very beginning, at the very, very end, they do incredibly elegant and powerfully moving tributes to T'Challa. Like it's gorgeous. Like what they do with the Marvel Studios logo is breathtakingly beautiful, and you will cry. It's so well done. And
the Wakandan sort of funeral rites are really gorgeous.
And like celebratory.
Yes.
but also like deeply sorrowful and deeply respectful. And it's so fully realized. Technically, this is marvelous. I mean, it's Hannah Beachler, who is production designer from the first film. Ruth Carter did the costume design again. And it's like a next level with the variety of textures and shapes
Ludwig
and colors and
Göransson
patterns.
is back with another great score.
The score, and just the use of music in general is really inspired all throughout. And then Autumn Gerald Arkapaw is now the
Yes.
DP here. It was Rachel Morrison.
Right.
Interestingly, she's married to Adam Arkapaw, who's also a DP who shoots all of Justin Kurtzler's stuff.
Interesting. And I really want to know if we're at any way related, because her middle name is Gerald.
Maybe.
Surely somewhere in the centuries we must share some kind of common lineage.
Maybe. and again, she has this huge challenge here of doing like stuff in the sky and stuff in the water and like stuff in the desert and the sea and day and nighttime. She also directed the Rihanna video for the theme for this movie, which is gorgeous and will make you cry all over again. Like it's a very emotional experience, but it's also really overstuffed and it's overlong and it feels really saggy in the middle.
Yeah, Coogler is trying to get his arms around a lot of stuff here because the loss of Chadwick Boseman is still so deeply felt and so recent. He can't just sort of paper over that. He has to the movie has to really kind of sit in that level of loss and grief and acknowledge it and face it and deal with it. And at the same time, he's having to introduce new characters, a whole new civilization, and like deliver on the action and
tie into the MCU.
Exactly. Because between Black Panther and this, like we had, Endgame and everything where the Wakandans, played a key role. So they are in, that and Winter Soldier, like they're enmeshed in the world and we can't pretend they aren't. And so I feel like all of those threads are interesting and well put together, but they don't come together in a way that feels satisfied. So by the end of it, I was like, this felt to me like a movie that was constantly starting. It wasn't carrying through as much as it was just like setting up and then this, and then we have to talk about this, and then we have to show that. And so I like all the pieces, but I don't think they fit together as cohesively as they do in the first movie.
I agree. And we'll go into this more when we have our spoiler discussion, but it really tantalizingly approaches some interesting ideas about like the ambiguity of justice, right? Like so much of the comic book world, action movies in general, but I think comic book movies in particular, like it's very black and white. Like here are the good guys and here are the bad guys and here are the winners and here are the losers. And this sort of in the way that like Captain America Civil War does, thinks about it's not that simple. And there are gray areas and there's collateral damage to all of this. And that is really interesting. It's an overarching theme for a movie that also has to be thrilling. It has to have kick-ass action set pieces and humor. Winston Duke is hilarious as always and has to deliver a ton of really strong performances. Like Angela Bassett is just stunning in this. Like maybe some of her best work ever. Fisher Wright's great in this. Lupita's great in this. Denai Guerrera has deeply moving moments. Like, as you said, it's and like you need to have watched MCU TV shows to get why some things matter too. Like, it's just so much. And then there's, of course, an end credit scene. I will say this. There's a mid-credit scene that you definitely need to stay for because it's important and it moves the story forward. There is not one at the very, very end.
Yes. So once that one happens, you can then skedaddle. Also, I mean, and I think, and on top of all the issues here, there's just the inevitable thing of being a sequel. Like we can't see Wakanda for the first time twice,
right?
And so once you have introduced this fascinating, nation that we've never seen, its kingdom that we've never seen in the Marvel movies before, you have to go somewhere with that. And then here we get this undersea kingdom, and it's not nearly as interestingly fleshed out. Like you look at Wakanda and you're like, oh wow, I get it. Afrofuturism. And like, you have these sort of very traditional colors and textiles mixed with this super high tech, science, thing going on. And then you get to the underwater kingdom, which has been around for centuries and it should be on a footing with Wakanda. And it's like, oh, this is one of those Cirque du Soleil underwater shows. Like it didn't,
and also it goes on too long too.
But it doesn't land as like a civilization that we're being introduced to in the way that Wakanda does in the first movie.
But the clothes are very cool there.
The clothes are cool. Yes, Ruth Carter always has it going on.
So, I'm a little mixed on this. And as you
Yeah.
say, yeah, it would be inevitable that like nothing could possibly top Black Panther. But this is, Ryan Coogler had a bigger, a more challenging assignment this time. So I'm saying 7.2. Like it's good, but it's messy.
Yeah, I'm close to you. I said 6.8. I think that if you're a fan of the first movie, you'll come out of this having enjoyed a lot of it and being glad that you saw a lot of it. But I don't think it's a movie that people are going to carry with them in the same way, in that it all really kind of, is this great finished product,
Right. Well, so come back on Saturday, guys,
Yes.
4:00 Pacific time, and we will dig in more, and we'd love to hear your thoughts too.